It's How I Make Money with Andy Beadle. Our guest today is Stephanie McPherson, and I'm actually going to try to stumble poorly through this and follow up with her telling you all the great ways to get in touch with her. But the reason I love it is, we all know that things are delicious. We all know things are freaking delicious, but are they de-freaking licious? And you can reach her for her cooking content, her coaching content, and all of the other good stuff at DEFAREKIN licious LICIOUS.com. So I think we are now done with this episode because I have managed to spell that correctly. I want to end on a high note. So that's going to be it. From here on, it's just Stephanie talking. But anyway, so Stephanie, I met a couple of years ago at an event in North Carolina with a friend, a big food event, and I was struck by a number of things. One, amazing sense of humor, but two, and Stephanie really does this in her business work that we'll talk about today. She coaches people, life coach. Think of that what you will, but really coaching people on, how do they figure out who they want to be, what they want to be, and do that in a way that brings them a lot of joy. And in addition, on top of that, is really big into cooking healthy, great food that actually tastes good, which is a struggle for a lot of folks in the kitchen. We all know that the first 6 months of culinary school are basically add salt and butter. And so, I've watched your videos. I've seen some of the stuff you've done. I love it. I love the way you kind of do what you do in the kitchen. You make a lot of fun, but all of the stuff you do is very on point. I mean, I would call it elevated food, so to speak, but it's super accessible. I know you posted that awesome Brussels sprouts recipe earlier. It was late last week, or maybe over the weekend. I love that. My wife loves Brussels sprouts. So, Stephanie, it is great to have you, and we will get into all of that stuff. And I guess what I would love to start with is, I know that, you're currently on a W-2 gig, but you've been doing all of this other stuff. And I guess in common parlance, we call it having a side hustle, right? Mm-hmm. But really it's having a purpose and spending your time on that purpose. So tell us how you got into it, what you're doing, and let people know how you got the business started.
Okay, so it's a W-9. I'm an independent contractor for some medical device products that I have been selling into the cardiothoracic operating room. But that doesn't, like a few years ago, I became certified through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition as a health coach. So, but basically the whole reason and the passion behind that is in my early 20s is when I started the journey to health and wellness. And seeing what it has done for me and my life, 20 plus years later, through what I've been able to cultivate, physically, mentally, right, etc. And then, in my mid-20s, I started the journey to cultivating that deeper sense of self-awareness. And so, throughout my entire adult life, persevering through many of life's challenges, as we all have challenges. We all have frickin' obstacles, right, that we have to persevere through. But what I will say, Andrew, is that starting so early in life, becoming self-aware and becoming dedicated to my health and wellness and my and quality of life. I always say my health and happiness are non-negotiable. Is that where certain incidences, if you have, like, have you ever heard of emotional quotient, EQ?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, the higher your emotional quotient, the more likely you are to be able to see certain incidences that you go through that one would think is negative, or even on the outside right, looking in as hurtful and painful, as a way of, oh, what is the lesson? Mm-hmm. What is the blessing? What is there for me? So I graduated college in 2001 with a bachelor's in biology. I knew that I wanted to be in the operating room because I loved watching surgery, and I could only seen surgery on Discovery Health. And, and again, and as well, that's when I started watching the Food Network in the late 90s. And I was like, it's like I had my whole life mapped out. Right. It's like, I'm going to graduate college. I'm going to go into medical device sales. I'm going to be in the operating room. I'm going to own my own restaurant. And I'm going to have my own cooking show on the Food Network one day, because I've been watching the Food Network, and it's just like I salivate, I ache, like I resonate with the people. It's like, those are my people, right, And, but I guess to get back to your question, it's like, what do you want and why do you want it? And so
Sure.
I think so many people kind of just meander through life, settling in that state of mediocrity without ever really knowing who they are, because to go down the road of self-discovery can be scary. And it's like, so I bought this book in 1996 called The Empowered Mind. And through answering the plethora of questions in that book, I realized that I had this true passion for wanting to empower, inspire people to be their best selves, to live their best lives through their core values. And at my core values started in 91, 92, when I started the journey to health and wellness.
Right.
And then I started the journey to self-awareness, and seeing what it's been able to do for my life. Again, like one of my clients that, I'm working with here recently is just like, are you always this happy? Well, hell no, I'm not always this fucking happy. Nobody's always this fucking happy. But happiness, and you said it perfectly, living that life, being in that space where you are consciously creating your joy, because that's important.
Well, I will say, I think for most of us, purpose writ large, like to have a clear view of a thing. I'm going to on a restaurant, Food Network, that's fairly rare. Excuse me. That's not that is not a common psychological makeup or profile, across the writ of humanity. And when you do have it, and taking the time to find it, I think, that's a blessing in itself. But I will say there's a way where, the vertical, if you want to look at it from a market perspective, where you practice, it is easy to kind of see people who are into that, oh, I'm going to empower you, this, that, and the other, blah, 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 and kind of just want to fucking punch those people. And yet I will say, I have partied with you, and girl, you throw down. I mean, you're a ton of fun. And so, and those are in my values, but I think that's something that's important, and one of the things that really struck me when we met was, you are hyper engaged with people when you're talking to them. You are very, I would say, sincere and extremely earnest, but just, here for the party, which is to me a pretty interesting combo. Right. Like a lot of gurus are set up in a room in a white shirt, and then we go see them.
See, but here's another thing, Andrew, is like, okay, so my grandma is the person who inspired me to cook when I was a little girl. So loving to cook. My mama. Okay, so I used to be I'm ADD. I am ADD. I'll be halfway in the middle of a thought. Oh shit, I got to talk about that. Okay, so let me get back to grandma. So my grandmother inspired me to cook. I loved being in the kitchen with my grandmother, and I would help her make the little baby biscuits. She would make the regular biscuits, and I want to make baby size biscuits since I was 3 and 4 years old. And then back then, even my mother would tell me that I loved playing restaurant. So I've always had this desire to be preparing food. Right. Okay, so when I was a little kid, I have 2 younger brothers. My parents did this thing during the week where Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they would allow one of us to stay up for an extra 30 minutes while the other 2 went to bed. Well, I always chose, during that 30 minutes, you could do anything you wanted. Like my brother Stan wanted to watch TV. I don't remember what Will wanted to do, but I wanted to always cook something. So and if you've ever heard this, that what you loved doing as a child is part of your passion or part of your purpose as an adult.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that carrying over throughout my life. Okay, so I used to be able to eat anything and everything I wanted, and as much of it, and look like I, was physically fit. And all of a sudden in my early 20s, that stopped happening. Right. So when I started the journey to health and wellness, okay, so luckily for me at that point in time, I was dating a guy who happened to be a gym rat. Somebody who was in the freaking gym 5 days a week. I did live in Chapel Hill. This is when I lived in Chapel Hill. I actually lived in Carborough. And there was a place called The Gym. So he's like, I was, expressing my disdain with what was going on with my body. And he's like, well, why don't you just come to the gym? And him and his roommates taught me how to work out.
Right.
And I probably have a very masculine way in which I work out. It's like back and buys, chest and tries, legs, on specific days. Well, back then I was, again, dedicated. When I commit to something, my ass commits. So it was grilled chicken, vegetables, tuna, bland food, not a lot of flavor, certainly no fat, And I happened upon a subscription to Cooking Light magazine.
Okay. Yeah, great magazine. I love that magazine.
Oh my God. Well, that's where I learned to teach myself how to cook healthy food deliciously. Okay. And so there was no more just grilled chicken and vegetables. It was like, okay. And then I started preparing that food for my friends. And you can even ask my friend Brad Patton, that back in the early, the 90s when we first met, the food was kind of bland. And now he's like, God, Stephanie, you're an amazing cook. So again, here's the thing. When you take care of your body, when you are self-aware and you've cultivated that sense of self-love and that self-value and self-worth that every fucking person on this planet deserves to feel. When you realize that about yourself, then you start making the decisions. You start making a concerted effort to be conscious about what you're fueling your body, how you're treating your body, who you're surrounding yourself with, what you're choosing to watch, what you're choosing to read, what you're choosing to listen to.
Yeah.
So, again, it's about being mindful. So empowerment coach, that's what happens. Mm-hmm. That's the end result of what I do. I'm a mindset coach. Like I'm coaching the mindset, because think about this. You reach a stop sign. There ain't a person on the doggone planet, I don't care if you're 3, that knows that when you reach that stop sign, it means to stop.
Right.
But if you get to that stop sign and you go, well, fuck it, and you just run it, well, just know, I know it's better to eat healthy. I know it's better to exercise. But if you're not doing it, there's a reason, there's a mindset behind mm-hmm. that. And again, what I do with my clients is we're digging deep to find the why. So I know my why. I've always passionately been about food and fun. You said, we had a blast at that party.
Yeah,
because life is a balance. It's not about sitting in a room all by yourself going, I. No, that's not fucking happiness. Happiness is being around fun people. And, like recently, I have this in my private group, Fa-Rekin Licous and you, I have a Motivation Monday, Tip Tuesday, Wake Up to Wednesday, Takeaway Thursday, and Fabulous Friday. And Fabulous Friday is all about celebrating yourself regardless of what you did or didn't do. Just love yourself and celebrate yourself in your life. And so one of the Fabulous Fridays was have you got any fun plans with some other fabulous people this weekend? Put yourself out there. Life is to be lived, not just existed. But again, you got to, me knowing, having those experiences with my grandmother and my mother throughout my entire life. And then if you've listened to what, like some of the things I've said, it's like, I happened. This mm-hmm. transpired, like,
right.
So it's like when you wake up and pay attention that your life is happening for you and not to you. So I happened to be dating a guy who was a gym rat. I happened to run across Cooking Light. When I was looking, when you're asking questions and you're looking for answers, you're going to find them. And it was important to make healthy food delicious. So my passion with Fa-Rekin Licous is to show people that, number one, my show is silly. You've seen how my friends and I, we get together, we dress up.
You all have a great time. Yeah, I love it.
It's funny.
Yeah.
It's entertaining.
Great. Yeah.
If you're funny and you're entertaining, people are going to watch. Do you know how many people reach out to me and go, oh my God, Stephanie, I made your such and such. I made your such and such. I've made those doggone Brussels sprouts so many times. I've had people come up to me and go, oh my God. No, there was this one girl, she said, Stephanie, I hate Brussels sprouts. I had taken them to a Thanksgiving party. Right. She goes, but that was the best shit I've ever eaten in my life. So it's like, oh, I don't like salmon. Well, have you had it prepared this way?
Right. Yeah.
It's like we think we don't like something because we had like I used to hate collards. That's the one thing that my parents gave up trying to make my brothers and I eat when we were, at my grandma's because I hated collards. But I've had them in my adult life to where they were absolutely delicious. So it's like, I can't say I hate collards.
God, I love collards.
There you go.
Now I'm thinking about collards. So anyway, I hear you. Well, so tell me a little bit about how your business works, because you've got the cooking show.
Mm-hmm.
You do coaching privately with clients. You've got a Facebook group that's private, but you're working with people in that.
Mm-hmm.
And you've also got, I believe I heard you say you've got a course as well that people can tap into. So talk a little bit about, and obviously this year, the year of the vid is a weird year because we've all got way more time on our hands for a lot of things we didn't expect to, but also just a strange world to live in.
Yes.
But so talk a little bit about just the day-to-day mechanics of your business. Are you, how do you find clients when you work with them? What does it look like? I think people are super curious about kind of the inside of what that looks like. And you're producing a show on top of that, which, as we know, is a lot of work. You can't just walk into the kitchen and be like, well, there's some shit in the fridge. Let's hope it works, right? You got to...
Yeah, well, unless you're on shop. So things have shifted this year. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I started trying to do some Zoom shows with a couple chefs, and due to technology, that kind of floundered out. But that doesn't mean that it's not still, in the works.
Sure.
Actually, right now, Andrew, I am looking for a sponsor.
Oh, okay.
I have a company that we have come up with this phenomenal idea to incorporate my mindset empowerment coaching with a cooking show.
Oh, cool.
And having a guest like in a Zoom type platform where, so if you noticed in my the current episodes of my show, I've done 42 or 43 episodes. I've got my friends with me. We're dressed up silly. We make it, we talk about it, we laugh, and we eat the food. Oh, and everybody's so always excited to say, that's Fa-Rekin Licous. But so I'm looking for a sponsor because it is time to up-level the quality and the content of the show. If you notice, I don't know if you saw some of my very first episodes, the first 3 or 4 episodes I did, I had a little white sheet of paper.
Right.
With Fa-Rekin Licous in black Sharpie written on it. And then one of my best friends, her husband had a sign made up, and he actually misspelled licious, but I've still kept it. He added an extra S. I was like, it made it extra special. But so the food sponsor, it doesn't even have to be a food sponsor. What I think would be ideal is like utensils, cooking equipment, a sponsor that is going to put up the money necessary for the advertisement, and I'm using their products during my show, and I'm bringing on my guest of the week, and all the guests are in that same realm of business with empowerment coaching, mindset coaching, for instance, I have a NHL hockey player that I have incorporated into. He won the Stanley Cup back in the early 90s.
Oh, wow.
So it's like I've got some really incredible people that are going to be guests, but it's time to do that. So, and working with my clients, again, there's not been one-on-one.
Right.
Like I was also providing meals for clients where I just prepared all their meals, to take the guesswork and the preparation because they had busy career lives. And that was something that took the ease off their mind, where they could still eat healthy and deliciously. So I've had to, be innovative, and creating the Facebook group, Fa-Rekin Licous and You, and the online course, which I've been working on that a little over a year, and I just pre-launched it on the 15th of November.
Oh, great.
And that is about, again.
And we will have links to all of that in the show notes.
Yeah. My mindset creates my life. My mindset creates the joy. And so when you mentioned that when you met me, you could tell that it was just that it was, I don't remember you saying authentic, but you used another word, but I was genuinely engaged and interested and just having a blast with people, and again, having that well-rounded approach to life. So that is what I do with my clients, whether it's one-on-one, whether we're doing a Zoom call, whether we're on the phone, or whether it's through a digital platform.
Sure.
It's about discovering your why. What do you want? Why do you want it? And that is always based upon who you really, true to the core of yourself are.
Well, and I think you've taken your business is a great example of the fact that you can start I'll loosely say with the tools at hand,
Mhm.
you know, I mean, I've seen a couple, like I saw one or two of the early episodes,
Mhm.
and have seen some of the later ones just because I love kind of going and kind of looking and see what people are up to. And it's super interesting to me to see just how far you can get with, really is, okay, well, I've got this stuff. I've got an interest in doing it. What the
Mhm.
heck? Let's just put something together and see what happens. And then to see that evolve over time, I would say that if you've got anything that you're passionate about and you're really into it, you would be shocked at how far you can get with content, even with a fairly basic setup.
Yeah.
And now that you've got this kind of rhythm and cadence under your belt to kind of go, okay, I think we can upgrade this a little bit. We can do better set dressing. We could do some other video equipment. Let's find a sponsor, just kind of raises the game of the whole show. In
Mhm.
our case, we're an ad agency, so we've got camera and audio and video gear out the gazing, so it's like,
Mhm.
so I love that model of coaching and content to in a way, the timing is really good to grow that because people are more comfortable meeting via video than maybe they would have been this time last
Mhm.
year.
Mhm.
But to use those tools at hand, I think gives you the ability to dive into a a market area, if you will, without a whole lot of startup cost.
Exactly.
So you can concentrate on the message, you can concentrate on the relationships you're building with people, you can concentrate on the content, and I really like that. So in terms of a team, do you work with people regularly, or are you able to pretty much prosecute all of this? I mean, I think you probably do almost all of it on your own, other than your the on-air talent who come and eat the food, right? I mean, so,
Well, see, yeah, I mean, so to answer your question, talking about the very early episodes,
yeah,
well, actually, all of them have been recorded with my iPhone.
no kidding.
Absolutely.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
Absolutely.
amazing.
The very first episode was a kale salad. I literally put the iPhone in this little gingerbread holder, hit record. It was 17 minutes long. And I had like 1,700 views, 1,700 views in a matter of 2 days.
Yeah,
And that, of course, just elated and lit up my heart. And then I learned how to edit in iMovie and video and added special effects through Videorama. Okay, so oh my gosh.
so
Antoinette.
our video guy is going to look at this raw tape and die inside when he hears all of that. Right? He's going to be like, "Oh my god,
I know.
for
So
what?" Yeah. So
yeah, and then
I love it.
the last 10 episodes or so, I started getting whoever had, everybody luckily had an iPhone. We started using two iPhones to record
Right.
because people were like, Stephanie, we really want to see what you're doing. So what I started doing is I had one filming down, and then I had one filming me, and then I learned to cut in. So it literally looks professional, like if you were watching something on the TV, how everything is cut. Like, oh, it's showing the ingredients. Now it's showing Stephanie and her silly big honking goodness.
It looks
You know?
good. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
love it. I love it.
but yeah, but like I said, it's time. So I had a friend. He's so hilarious. Y'all actually have similar personalities, and he found some ad through Craigslist, and it was this We Cook TV channel, and they were like, "We're gonna come and film this pilot, etc. We just need you to bring to the table a sponsor." And I got real excited, and it wound up being kind of a scam.
Oh shoot.
So,
Yeah.
but again,
Right.
everything comes into your life as it's supposed to. That had my wheels turning in a way that they hadn't yet. I need a sponsor. So imagine Fa-Rekin Licous. How cool that. And you're supposed to ask me where Fa-Rekin Licous comes
I'm
from.
I'm getting there. I'm just letting you build up.
So it's like it's such a unique. I have this, like I said, weird, quirky way in which I say people's names and spell and add extra syllables to words. And the extra syllables to words, actually, that started a little bit later. Do you remember the movie Snatch?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, I'm serious. That is within like probably the top. There's probably 3 number 1 spots, and that's one of the number 1 spots. I love that movie. I've watched it 1,000 times,
It's a
maybe
great film. Yeah.
2,000. Well, do you remember the scene where Bricktop? I mean, well, Bricktop is being an asshole that he's doing something with a bunch of guys. Well, anyway, Turkish and Tommy
Right.
show up to tell Bricktop, uh, uh, we lost Gorgeous George. And Bricktop goes, well, where'd you lose him? It's not as though he's a set of fucking car keys, and it's not as though he's inconspicuous now, is it? That inconspicuous imprinted itself upon me, and it's like, I started kind of talking and talking like that and adding extra syllables. So one day I'm headed to the gym and I'm thinking about an idea for, I want my own cooking show on the Food Network. And I'm like,
Right.
Fa-Rekin Licous. And I'm like, oh my God. Because everybody says frickin' and fricking,
Right.
and obviously you can't say fucking. Okay, so Antoinette, you remember Antoinette?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love her. She was in one of my episodes, actually about around a year ago, about this time,
Mm-hmm.
and we made this spaghetti squash bolognese, and she was like, "That's de-fucking-licious." First person to ever say that. But again, I can't have a show called that. But
Tough to get sponsors. That's true.
right, exactly. De-Fa-Rekin Licous, and it's like that's where it came from. Like that somehow that extra syllables to words one day, it just boom. And like, oh, that's cool. And I'm like, and I imagine like when I'm, doing this visualization and I'm just imagining where, placing myself where I want to be. And I'm imagining myself on the Food Network and I've got Guy Fieri or Bobby Flay or Jada De Laurentiis or Anna Garten, and in their own special way, like, at the end of the show, they're like, that's de-Fa-Rekin Licous. Like Guy Fieri would be like, shut the front door. That was de-Fa-Rekin Licous. You know what I mean? And it's just like, that just lights me up. My group is de-Fa-Rekin Licous and You because so many people who have been following me the past, let's see, I started the show in 2016.
Right.
And it's like, so they're familiar. But yeah, like, my boyfriend's made the comment like, nobody knows how to spell de-Fa-Rekin Licous, and you should change it de-freaking licious. And I'm like, but it's so unique that this is my dream, is for de-Fa-Rekin Licous to be a household name for healthy, delicious cooking and living your best freaking life.
Well, as a brand name, it would be fine.
Yeah.
I mean, there would be zero downside to that. And I think that would be killer. And one of the things that, when we talk to people about, how they make money in their business, and especially, we've just sort of thrown off a bunch of stuff without really explaining it, but you start with a mindset. You go, I think I want to do a cooking show. And then you go, well, wait a minute, I can show this stuff with my iPhone. Still amazed by that. And then, there's a coaching component to this. Is not really just about food. It's about how do you come to the kitchen, so to speak, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I think I have been stunned in my life as I've gotten older, as I meet people who don't know how to cook.
Yeah.
Because it seems so part of my life. And there's a real class division there too, right? I mean, certainly known plenty of very well-off people who don't cook, but then, you kind of like, what's your home life like? This, how busy are your parents, and all of that. And so the extension of I'm making food that I like, that's still good for my body, and then going, well, wait a minute, what gets me there? Well, that's kind of how I look at the world. It's my mindset. Well, now there's a coaching component. Well, double, wait a minute, my time is the scarcest resource in my business. So how can I extend my time? Okay, I'm going to do a course. I mean, it's that kind of like why people write recipes down, right? It's sort of, I got to come back later and see it. So I think the way that you've done what you do gives you a lot of powerful abilities to extend your ability to help people, if you will, in a lot of different ways. So I think that, that makes a lot of sense. And it's something that when people start out in a business, I think a lot of people go, oh, gee, how could I go do that? Oh, I'm going to be a meal prep person. Okay, I know how to cook. I'm going to do meal prep. To me, you've approached it from a really different angle that says, well, all right, I'm me. What would I do? Hell, I'd cook on camera. That'll be cool. And then, you get some education, some certification, you go, yeah, I think I could teach people how to make their lives more enjoyable. So I love that. And I love coming into that and realizing, we live in a kind of golden age of the ability to do those kind of content-based businesses. Like you said, I'm still struggling with the fact that you're doing a gorgeous 2-camera setup on 2 iPhones. So I'm going to get around that in a minute. But I just love that. And I think it's a huge inspiration to people who are thinking about doing their own thing, because the answer is, we'll just dive in and see what happens. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
In your case, you do have an asset coming to the table, because, I mean, obviously you're hugely entertaining on camera. You're even more fun to be with in person. I mean, you really, really are a lovely person, a lot of fun to talk to, have a lot of great stuff to talk about. And so that's something that I think is a benefit to you. But in general, no matter what you're doing, that kind of content I think is accessible to almost everybody.
Absolutely.
Would be my guess. Well, so you've got the course going live. Tell us a little bit about what that is all about and what you look to accomplish, and who kind of who's the target group of people you're really trying to help with that?
So the course is called Empower Your Mind, Empower Your Life, and Make Some Healthy, Delicious Dishes. But it's more centered around that mindset coaching, or creating that mindset, because it's for people who, all right, let me just go back to myself back in the 90s, why I chose to pick up the book, The Empowered Mind, because I was feeling this lack of fulfillment, this lack of purpose in my life. I knew I'd been on the health and wellness journey for a few years, but it's like, I flipped back, and like, I wanted to be a child psychologist. I wanted to help little kids based upon a story that I had heard. Anyway, and I wanted to be an architect. And it's like, I had all these ideas, but then none of that played out. And, 1996, 95, 96 world comes around, and I'm like, there's got to be something. There's got to be, I want to stick, there's got to be something. And I picked up the book, The Empowered Mind. And like I said, I started reading it and answering the questions about because you're answering questions, because I knew that there was something that I was supposed to be doing that was going to be meaningful and purposeful. And what I came to the conclusion, like writing down your strengths, writing down what's good about you, writing down your weaknesses, writing down what your interests are. And again, coming to, like, I'm going to do something career-wise that's going to help people. I've got that written down. I've got the sheet. I ran across the book a couple years ago with the sheet still stuck in the book where I'd written. And it's like, I know I'm going to do something career-wise that's going to help people. So then, not to go too much into this, but the people that I was hanging out with at the time, and really good friends, are still my friends to this day. One of them, his mother's friend was a drug rep, a pharmaceutical rep. And he's like, "Oh, Stephanie, you should be a drug rep. You'd be a dynamite drug rep." And I'm like, "Well, what's that?" And yeah, I would have been.
Right.
So when I graduated, I have a bachelor's in biology, and this was the goal. I'm going to go into pharmaceutical sales, and I'm going to go into surgical equipment, because I wanted to be in the operating room once in surgery. And then I'm going to have my own cooking show, I'm going to have my own restaurant. Well, after I graduated college, with every ounce of every iota of my being, I tried to get into pharmaceutical sales. And I literally, and if you know anything about those are 4, 5, and 6 step processes.
Right.
They take 2, 3, and 4 months to get on. I mean, the managers sitting across from me, you could feel their energy was like, it's just like they wanted to pull me, just like, I don't even need to talk to you. I mean, I've talked to you for 5 minutes. I know I want you on my team.
Right. But
literally at the last millimeter of an eighth of a second, something would happen and another candidate would get chosen. And it kept happening, for whatever reason. So, number one allergist in all of South Carolina wrote a recommendation.
Wow.
Why are weird, wild shit? And I'm like, why? I would be a great drug rep. Why is this not happening?
Yeah.
And then you're going to laugh. Well, it wasn't funny at the time, but in 2005, I did get ascended an offer it was a contract company with GlaxoSmithKline, and I had my welcome letter. I had my company car on order. I had my computer already shipped to me, and I got a letter of rescission. We're having to rescind the offer because too many speeding tickets. Not funny then, but I bet it's really hard for you to believe that I'm a speeder. But anyway, let me on the flip side of that, when I was a lot younger, I used to get pulled like it was my job. I would drive as fast as I could go until I reached the car in front of me, regardless of the speed zone. And 9 times out of 10, I taught my way out of that ticket. Never having my driver's license on me, didn't know where the hell my fucking, what is the slip with your insurance, your
your proof of insurance card, all that stuff, registration,
never knew where that
the whole
was.
9 yards. Yeah.
I jump out of the car. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, sir. Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Right.
Anyway, but for it's just like a sales job. For every time you get a no, you're eventually going to get a yes. So eventually, I get a ticket. Well, then I had my license suspended. Anyway, so that woke me up. Like, okay, Stephanie. So I started making a concerted effort using cruise control. It became my best friend. But also what happened in that period of time is I was at my same girlfriend that named me Stephanie, Delora Rasmussen. I I was at her house watching TV, and Kevin Trudeau's Natural Cures They Don't Want You to Know About came on as an infomercial.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I learned that while pharmaceutical drugs and surgeries are necessary in certain instances, it is not the end all be all, and it is not true health and wellness.
Yeah, there are a lot of problems people have that don't need to be solved through drugs and surgery, right? There's no doubt about that, you know.
Yeah, and that was where it hit me. Like, Stephanie, you've been on this journey to health and wellness. Why you're not going to go out and promote cholesterol and high blood pressure? Like, that doesn't even make sense. That's not in line with your core values. But Andrew, because I kept pursuing it, because being a drug rep, the job, showing up at doctors' offices, what's up? How y'all doing?
Right.
Yeah, great. And it's because I did get into surgical because there was a real heartfelt passion for wanting to watch surgery. And I have been in the cardiothoracic operating room since 2013. And, well, not as much this year, but it's still, even with that, there's a deeper, greater purpose for me. And that is what I've been a walking, talking billboard of my entire adult life. And that is cultivating true health and wellness, seeing the value in your worth, so that you spread that to others. Because think about it, if more and more people, Andrew, really saw their value and worth, would there not be so many more happy people?
Oh,
joyful?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think the word empower, it kind of gets thrown around a lot in a way. I mean, it's hard to, I have nothing against upper middle class soccer moms. So as I say this, let me just preface that. But it's the kind of thing that upper middle class soccer moms say to each other, you go girl, get empowered, which then makes you want to retch quietly into a bush somewhere. But I think the real meaning of the term, and certainly I've seen in the discussions you've had with your guests online, is there is a lot about contemporary life that is completely out of our control.
Mm-hmm.
And yet there's a lot about contemporary life that we participate in completely unconsciously. And then we go, wait, how did I end up here? And diet is a big one. You said earlier what we choose to read, what we choose to consume in terms of entertainment, what we choose to do with our time. And there's a lot of it that just feels inevitable. And when you step back from that and go, well, wait a minute, what can I control? What can I do? That's when you're being empowered. Right now, you're like, oh, wait, I do have power over this. I have control. And now you go, well, if I've got choices to make, how do I make those choices? And I think your whole approach is to say, well, okay, well, who are you?
Exactly.
And the answer no lie, talk to anybody about this. I was in therapy every week for almost 7 years. Absolutely highly recommended if you have the means and the time. I was very fortunate to have both. And I remember at one point about a year and a half, just think how fucked up I was that it took a year and a half for her to ask this question. It was, what do you really want? And I stopped and I went, what hell kind of, how should I know? And part of that is because you, if you will, you are lived by your life with a lot of people rather than living it and making those choices. So,
yes.
I love that you focus on that. And then that food kind of became I don't know what you want to call it, the touchstone for all of it, because everybody eats.
Yes.
Then we all got stuff we love,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody hates healthy food.
Yeah, because healthy is bland. Healthy is tasteless. Healthy is whole foods, whole wallet. Well, pay for healthy food or pay the doctor.
Right.
So I like to say you can invest in healthy food. Think of investment, or you can pay for drugs, surgery, the doctor.
Yep, absolutely.
And, it's, again, especially with the course, I literally took, because I didn't just read that one book, Andrew. I've read numerous books like that. I've watched or taken numerous courses myself.
Oh, yeah.
So again, my course is a culmination of everything I've learned and still learning, because I'll be on this lifelong journey to self-awareness until I'm 1 foot on a banana peel, one in the grave. I had an ex-boyfriend who used to say that. I always thought that was hilarious. 1 foot on the banana peel, one in the grave.
I love
it. And it's just like you said, like when she asks you, what do you want? Well, what the hell do I know? It's because you hadn't at that point in time quite yet discovered Andrew.
Well, and you didn't know you could.
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Because there's just so much, and it's easy to do. You know, you've got a job, you've got kids, you got pets, you got a mortgage, you got bills, you got that drug rep job to get, and
Yeah.
you wind up in this situation where things just sort of carry you along, and it happens everywhere. I mean, even as a business owner, it is very easy to get sucked in. You know, it's the restaurant term. You know, yeah, we were in the weeds all night, right? Which is, hey,
Hmm.
we're just trying to keep our heads above water.
Yeah.
And it's very easy for your entire life to take that, I think, to take that quality on,
Hmm.
and for you to forget, oh, wait a minute, there's a bunch of stuff here I do have control over, and I could empower myself to make some decisions. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And, we're all brainwashed and hypnotized by the way in which we carry out our every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it's nothing for me to get up and know that I'm going to squeeze that fresh lemon and spring water first thing.
Right.
Or choose the eggs, choose. It doesn't mean, but this isn't about also just complete denial. I eat unhealthy stuff like cheeseburgers and pizza, and I love sweets. I mean, I do that on occasion as well. You have to allow yourself to do that as well. But it's about what are you eating around all that, that once in a while cheat meal or cheat treat. And
So your diet is not a regular diet of pork and all the other things that we had at the boucherie. I just making sure that's not it. That's not all of it.
oh my, actually, yeah. I'm gonna tell you right, that was just absolutely incredible. And but yeah, I mean, again, it's not about just completely being in denying. But it's not about going out there and smoking crack. Oh, I'm only going to smoke crack once every couple months.
Right,
It's still because choosing brownies or going to pizza and whatever
right.
every once in a while is okay. But again, it's about, so the course it's not a frou-frou. It's not like, oh, we're going to be empowered.
Right.
There's real deep self-work. And what comes from that self-work that you create for yourself so that you create new habits. And it's not about, I'm not taking somebody with my course from 1 to 1,000, in a matter of a week. It's 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to maybe 5, 5 to 7, but again, these little things that you start tweaking within your subconscious, but it's a repetitive pattern. It becomes a brainwashed and hypnotized way in which now you are, carrying out with these new habits.
Right. Well,
and then your reality's new and different and better.
And hooking that to the kitchen, I think, is brilliant because the kitchen is all about technique.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that from the sense of, knife technique
Yes.
or whatever, but also it's all about techniques of going, how does food work? Right. And we have a friend, my wife and I have a friend who makes the finest empanadas known to humankind. And we were talking, I was like, man, you got to tell me how to make these. We were just sitting there and she says, well, can you cook? And what she was asking was, how much detail do I need to go into, and she's from Colombia. So, I mean, that was what she was not going to, she was just like, do you know how to cook? I was like, I do, ma'am. So, but it was great because all of that stuff is incremental and you learn something in the kitchen and you put it into practice. And then 5 months later, it's second nature. And I think you tie all that together really well because the activity of having the show demonstrates the reality of, hey, this is a progression, right? I'm making Brussels sprouts this week. You don't have to eat them every meal of the day for the next week, right? And I really like that. I feel like it's very realistic. Like you said, it's not kind of woo woo frou frou whatever.
Yeah.
And yet, the language is super upbeat and very. I mean, it would be you should probably go to the ER if you watch some of your content and are not happier at the end. That's indicative of a larger problem that content, probably a brain bleed of some kind, or
right, or aneurysm,
like that. Or an overdose on the pharmaceuticals you shouldn't be taking. Something like that. Yeah. Well, hey, I tell you, I know that we've got a fairly free afternoon, but I want to respect your time because we've got two questions, the two big questions at the end of every show. But we've got plenty of time to talk about them. Question number 1: if you could share a meal with any living public figure, who would that be, and what would the meal be? Whatever comes to mind first. Don't overthink it.
Well, it was Chelsea Handler. I think.
Get
Chelsea.
the fuck out.
I love this. Oh my God.
I love this question. So I have yet to have somebody I had one answer to this question that I was like, I kind of expected that. And yet his reason behind it, I thought was absolutely fascinating. And I did not expect that. Tell me, Chelsea Handler, go. I love it. Why? And what would you guys eat?
Chelsea Handler is literally one of the most, she is such an outstanding freaking human being. Absolutely hilarious. Listen, my favorite thing to do is laugh. Stimulate me intellectually or make me laugh, and I'm addicted to you. I absolutely adore her. She's got heart. She's a good person as well.
Mm-hmm.
And golly, I mean, we could just talk for an hour about her. I'm determined that she's going to be one of my best friends someday. I'm serious. I've got a vision board up in my room, and I've got all my goals and dreams,
Right.
and me and her sitting, chilling, talking. She's just fucking hilarious. I love her sense of humor, her dry, sarcastic, do you follow her on Instagram?
I don't, but one of the things I know about her and I really respect is how straight up she is. I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly.
she's not at
Yeah.
all pretentious.
Mm-mm.
And she's I think, very clear about her opinions about things, but I don't think in a mean or arrogant way at all.
No, no. It's
And
always out of love.
yeah, and I love her brand of comedy,
Mm-hmm.
so that's fantastic. I will say one of our goals is this podcast becomes insanely popular. We make a ton of money, and then we figure out how to take guests and put them with their famous person for that meal, and then
Done
do an
and
episode.
done.
So I do not have a vision board with that on it, but maybe I should put one up.
So let me tell you about one of the things that I envision with her. So
Great.
you remember,
I love it.
obviously you've seen the movie Hangover 2.
Oh yeah.
All right. You remember it's called the Sky Bar, and it's a hotel, and they're sitting out there and they're eating, and that's where the helicopter comes up and arrests Chow.
Right.
Leslie Chow. Okay, I envision me, Chelsea, and I, and other girlfriends just eating dinner there, drinking wine, taking twosies. I don't call them selfies because it's never 99.9% of the time it's not just me in the freaking picture.
Right.
There's at least one other person, so it's a twosie or a groupie, and that's what we're doing. So we're at the Sky Bar. We're having the time of our freaking lives right there where Leslie Chow was arrested, and just loving life.
And then
Yes.
the helicopter comes up to arrest you for unpaid speeding tickets.
No, I haven't had any of those in a while.
An international warrant for Stephanie McPherson for unpaid speeding tickets. I love it.
Yeah.
So you've done a lot. You've obviously been working up to where you are now and continuing on for quite some time. If somebody came to you now and said, "Hey, I'm thinking of starting my own gig, whether it be as a side hustle or a full-time thing or whatever," if you could give them one piece of advice, just one thing, what would you tell them?
I would say know why you want it. And if there is a real heart-centered, fervent why, never give up until it's achieved.
I like that.
You can do anything. Anybody can have anything. Everything is mindset. Whatever you see, can touch, feel, look at, was first started as a thought in the mind.
Mm-hmm.
If you can think it and believe it, and it's from somewhere deep, make it happen.
So let me ask you this, and you'll have a lot more experience with this than I will because in working with clients, if somebody's got an idea or a desire to do something, how do you know, right, that it's really what you want? When you say a deep, heartfelt why, I love that phrase. Like, what does that mean internally when somebody kind of has that sensation? How do they know they're on the right track?
So are they wanting it because, okay, so, all right, this could be answered in a couple of different ways. Number one, okay, it's easy to say, oh, I want that, but you think you're supposed to want that.
Absolutely.
Because society or your parents, or because it sounds good, it looks good, it's the shiny object. So first you've got to know, again, is it from a deep sense of self-awareness and self-knowledge of, like when I tell you the story that I loved being in the kitchen with my grandmother. Now my brothers didn't.
Right.
They didn't
Yeah.
care about being in the kitchen with grandmother, but I did. I'm beating on I get crazy excited. Um, and it's like, so for that, for you, for me, I'm not just looking, at the Food Network going, oh, I want to be famous.
Right. Yeah.
There's a real reason why I see myself on the Food Network being a personality, with, alongside those other people I've mentioned. No one, it's God, like I said, you're probably going to be editing some of this out because I just have so many neurons firing. Like, oh, say this, you can say this, you can say that.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, it's like, again, Andrew, you got to know what you want, but you got to know why you want it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to know if it's from your heart or if it's something that sounds like a good idea because of something that someone else did or said that it kind of put that into your mind, and you're like, oh yeah, that sounds good. But I'm telling you, Andrew, I think once people really do operate from that deep sense of self-awareness of really, really knowing, and that is a lifelong journey, that then they know that the decisions are from them and not some other place. And
Yeah.
because if you're like me pursuing pharmaceutical sales, the job itself would have been cool, but what I was promoting was not in line with what I consider true health and wellness and what I've been doing for myself. So the universe, whatever you want to call it, wasn't gonna. It's like, Stephanie, I got knocked on my ass. I had the rug pulled out from under me. I mean, when I tell you that these steps, these processes were so involved, I'd have people call, Stephanie, did you get it? Did you get it? Did you get it? You're going to get it. People were so excited for me because, they did. They saw me as, oh my God, she'd be a freaking dynamite drug rep. But again, not realizing that, that'd be like me getting on here and okay, all right. That'd be like Food Network reaching out to me and saying, you know what, we want to cast you for a show, but it's going to be, fried chicken. It's going to be, just healthy. So, not healthy, like regular Southern food that's filled with fat. Well, there would be something that would happen, and I would, no, that's not for me. That's not in line with my core values. My core values are to be hosting a show and inspiring people to eat healthy because they're like, oh yeah, wow. That hilarious girl from Fa-Rekin Licous says I need to start my day with fresh squeezed lemon in water. Oh, hell yeah. I mean, okay, when I was a little kid, and there's huge controversy around this guy, but it's my experience as a kid. You remember when Bill Cosby was hired to advertise for Coke?
Absolutely. I grew up in the Cosby era of entertainment. So all of his ads and all that stuff. Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Absolutely. Yep. So, my mama loved Pepsi. She didn't like Coke. And I remember even being a little kid, I've always had this questioning discernment. And I go, well, why would they, hire, Bill Cosby? My mama's not going to go out and drink Coke just because Bill Cosby. But it clicked. I saw how someone famous is used for advertising because that subconsciously it prints itself upon people. We're all imprinted in various ways. So, yeah, I'm famous and I'm saying, living your life this way or doing this for yourself or having this kind of mindset and what this is going to create for you. And if they see me on the TV and I'm entertaining them, they're more likely to go, oh yeah, it'll imprint, it'll stick.
Right. Oh yeah. Well, I think as well, there's a great scene from Devil Wears Prada where the Anne Hathaway characters they're getting ready for a photo shoot, and Meryl Streep and Stanley Tucci are there. They're trying to choose a belt for an outfit, and they say, "Oh, they're so the same." And then Anne Hathaway kind of sniggers, and they're blue. They're kind of a light blue. Her sweater is, and Meryl Streep gives this wonderful. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's called the Cerulean Blue dialogue. But the end result is Streep turns around and looks at her and goes, "You just think this is all a joke. And then you buy your little shapeless sweater," as she says, "We actually chose that sweater for you 2 years ago." And I say that because, in the world of marketing, which we do, we writ large, marketing as a profession, oftentimes tells people what to want.
Right.
I mean, that's the game, you know, or elements of the game. And it's not that it's bad to want anything or not want anything, but I think that I love that advice that says, hey, you know, make sure this is what you want and not what you think you should want or not what you think would be good for whatever, whoever, why ever. But it's because it's what you want to do. And I guess another thing too is be ready to leave stuff when you achieve it, be ready to change.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I think that's great. And it's something that, you know, even watching what you've done just with the cooking piece of what you do over time, you know, it starts out and then, you know, I won't say this, it's not accidental, but over time, like that content evolves quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it becomes different. And that's great. So I love that. Thank you a million times over for struggling through getting all of our AV set up today. You were a trooper. I apologize for all that. And for sharing what you do with people. We will have every way they can possibly contact you in the liner notes. But if you want to say again how people can and should get in touch with you, let everybody know. Go for it.
Absolutely. So you see my name here, Stephanie, but it's Fa-Rekin Licous, spelled just like that, Fa-Rekin-Licous.com. I have a private Facebook group. Please come and join my private Facebook group, spelled the same way, Fa-Rekin Licous, and there's an and signed U. Now, you do have to spell it with the spaces, Fa-Rekin space Licous. I have my YouTube channel. If you just Google Fa-Rekin Licous, spelled the same way. Oh my gosh. My online course, you know, that is in pre-launch phase. And Andrew, oh my gosh, I've been working on this thing for over a year, and there's still so much more content that I am in the process of adding to it. But right now, it's only $47.
Oh, wow.
It's only $47 until the 31st of December.
Okay.
And then on January 1st, it goes to $297. So, but let's say you get in today or next week, and you got in for $47, and in a year and a half, it's $2,000. You've only paid $47, but you have access to the lifelong content and the more and more that's added to it. So that's
okay.
Yes, and I'll put a link to that.
Okay.
I guess we'll So we've got my Facebook.
We'll have
group.
it in the show notes. Trust me. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Let's see. So we got that. We got then I have the Facebook page that's a business, Fa-Rekin Licous. There's a plethora of ways to get a hold of me.
And we're going to wrap up, but I just got to ask this question.
Okay.
Do you have like 12 pairs of glasses and they're all in different colors? Because I love those glasses. You know what?
Andrew, do you understand that everybody says that to me?
These
are $1 bill, y'all.
Yeah.
Dollar. I get them from the dollar store next to the gym I work out at. And I have pink, I have purple, I have, these are green. I have 150 pair, and I never can find them because they're never where I need them. But yeah, most recently in the past 6 months, all these really cool colors, and this is like a turquoise aquamarine green.
I love it. Yeah.
And I've got pink, I've got red. Yeah, $1. And they're reading glasses. They're reading glasses.
You're killing it. You're killing it. I love it. Well, and then you have enough of them, they're kind of like cat toys. You know, they get lost, but once you got 150, you can at least find one. You know, that's the. There you go. I love it. All right. Well, hey, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Thanks for joining us. You can find contact information about our guest in the show notes for this episode. This has been the How I Make Money podcast by Brand Distillers. To learn more, visit branddistillers.com.